My name is Noah. I'm from Pea Ridge, Arkansas, and I will be preaching on the King Joash. Joash became the king of Judah at the age of 7 in 843 BCE, and he reigned for 40 years. He was a good king, and he accomplished a lot of important things, devout to the Lord. But after Jehoiada's death, he became a victim of peer pressure because he made some bad choices because he chose to follow man and not God. But before I tell the story, I need to introduce Athaliah, the grandmother of Joash. Athaliah became queen after her son died, and she was an important part of the story. She changed Joash's life. He stayed in the house of the Lord for 6 years because of her, and it changed his life. Now, back to the story. 2 Chronicles 22:10. Now when Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the royal family of the house of Judah. Imagine a grandmother who could lower herself so far to take her own grandson's life. She had to have had no feelings or love for her own family. You can't keep God's promises and plans from happening. A good priest, Jehoiada, had married a woman named Jehoshaphat, who was the daughter of King Jehoram. She saw what was happening and quickly took one of the sons of her brother and fled to the house of the Lord to preserve the line of David. The little boy was Joash, 1 year old. And for the next 6 years, during Athaliah's reign of terror, Jehoiada the priest would hide and protect him from the evil Athaliah in the house of the Lord. Chapter 23 tells us how Jehoiada courageously brings the now 7-year-old Joash before the people for his coronation to the throne. It's a story of bravery in keeping the little Joash safe and doing all in his power to make sure that the rule of Athaliah would reign no longer. 2 Chronicles 23:11-13. Then they brought out the king's son and put the crown on him and gave him the testimony, and they proclaimed him king. And Jehoiada and his sons anointed him and they said, "Long live the king." When Athaliah heard the noise of the people running and praising the king, she went to the house of the Lord to the people. And when she looked, there was Joash, wearing the crown, standing by the pillar at the entrance, and the captains and the trumpeters besides Joash and all the people of the land, rejoicing and blowing trumpets, and the singers with their musical instruments, leading in the celebration. And Athaliah tore her clothes and cried, "Treason, treason," but to no avail. God's purpose will not be thwarted. She was quickly removed by Jehoiada the priest. Verse 1 of chapter 24. Joash was 7 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zibiah of Beersheba, and Joash was right in the eyes of the Lord all the days of Jehoiada the priest. But here's the problem. 2 Chronicles 24:17-19. Now through the death of Jehoiada the priest, the princes of Judah came and paid homage to King Joash. Then the king listened to them, and they abandoned the house of the Lord, the God of their fathers, and chose to follow the Asherim and the idols. And wrath came upon Judah and Jerusalem for this guilt of theirs. Yet he sent prophets among them to bring them back to the Lord. They testified against them, but they would not pay attention. Pure pressure. It ended up taking Joash, and in the end, a whole nation down. 20-24. Then the Spirit of the Lord clothed Zechariah, the son of Jehoiada, priest. Then he stood above the people and said to them, "Thus says the Lord, why do you break the commandments of the Lord, so that you cannot prosper? Because you have forsaken the Lord, he will forsake you." But they conspired against him, and by commands of the king, they stoned him with stones in the court of the house of the Lord. Thus Joash the king did not remember the kindness of Jehoiada, Zechariah's father, how he had shown him that kindness, but killed his son. When he was dying, Jehoiada said, "May the Lord see and avenge." At the end of the year, the army of Syrians came up against Joash. They came to Judah and Jerusalem and destroyed all the princes of the people from among the people and sent all their spoils to the king of Damascus. Though the army of the Syrians had come with few men, the Lord delivered into their hands a very great army, because Judah had forsaken the Lord, the God of their fathers. Thus they executed judgment on Joash. Verse 25. And when they were departing from him, for they left him in great distress, his own servants turned against him for the blood of the sons of Jehoiada the priest, and slew him on his deathbed, and he died. And they buried him in the city of David, but they did not bury him in the sepulchres of the kings. Peer pressure is really hard. We want our friends to like us and think well of us. So it's hard to say no when they want us to do things, even if those things are wrong. One effective way to deal with peer pressure as a Christian is to identify and clarify your personal values and beliefs. This can help you to stay grounded in your faith and make decisions that align with your beliefs, even when faced with pressure from others. When faced with a situation you feel pressured to do something that goes against your beliefs, take a moment to pause and reflect. Ask yourself whether the decisions align with your values and beliefs as a Christian. If it doesn't, it's okay to say no and stand firm in your faith. This is the first thing that Joash did wrong. He had gradually gotten away from God. When Zechariah came to him, what did he do? Did he listen to him? If he had, he would have had a good support. Building a strong support system is important in overcoming peer pressure. Friends who share similar values can be a great source of support. Surrounding yourself with like-minded people can make it easier to resist negative influences. Surrounding yourself with like-minded people is crucial. Look for people who share your values and beliefs, and who will encourage you in your faith. This camp is a good example of one way to do that. It is also important to seek out positive roles models in your communities. This could be a mentor, teacher, or leader who inspires you to live a life of faith and integrity. Having someone to look up to and learn from can be helpful in navigating the challenges of peer pressure. While Joash had godly influences around him, he chose wisely and served well. He organized the priests and Levites and ordered a collection to be taken up to repair the temple, which was not only neglected but also damaged. He had lost his most important mentor when Jehoiada died. But he could have looked to Zechariah, but he chose to listen to the princes of Judah instead. Finally, don't forget about your family. They can be your biggest supporters and allies in your journey to overcome peer pressure as a Christian. Make time for meaningful conversations and activities with your family, and lean on them for guidance and encouragement. Joash's story could have ended much differently had he made different choices. He could have refused the audience to the leaders of Judah who brought bad advice. He could have acknowledged his sin when confronted. He could have purged the land from all idols and all high places of worship. He could have, but he chose not to. We sometimes think life happens, and we groan for the way of it, but we often look at the consequences of choice. Peer pressure is really tough, but don't forget that in all parts of life, God is there for you just as he was for Joash until Joash turned his back from God.